Danny watches a lot of television and movies. John does not. Listen in as she tells him about what she's watching, and he tries to make sense of it all. Welcome to Watching My Stories with Dhani and John.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to Watching My Stories.
Hello.
Me, Danny.
Yeah.
You?
John. I'm John.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Happy Oscar Sunday.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is probably the first year in many, many years that I have not watched most of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Some I tried to watch. Nomadland. Boring. And others I really want to see. Like, I still want to really see Minari, and I want to see The Father. And every weekend I have plans to watch them, and then other stuff gets in the way. So, and so tonight's, ceremony is going to be different. Steven Soderbergh's got this whole thing or something. I'm excited for it. I've actually really enjoyed the Zoom award shows this year because they go quickly.
Yeah.
I love seeing people surrounded by their families when they win, especially like I can think of Zendaya and stuff. Like it brings so much more cheer to it, to me at least.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm not really like overly involved in tonight since I haven't seen so much of it, but there's still a lot that I'm really into, and I really am excited to see the show still. So,
okay.
It's weird. It's April. I mean, it's like the end of April and it's Oscars, which is weird, but
yeah. Isn't it normally earlier? Like
February? Early
Yeah.
February.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Well, it didn't have anything to judge. Hardly anything came out last year.
Exactly.
Had to wait for something to show up.
Right. So by that you can deduce it is Sunday morning. We have had a wonderful breakfast already.
Thank you.
I've had a couple good cries because I watched Inside Out.
Yeah.
Actually, I watched the last 15 minutes of Inside Out and still had a couple good cries. It's the best movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which made me think we haven't talked about Amy Poehler on here, and maybe we need to. I don't know if she has enough, but it's good.
God.
Yeah, we should do.
She's going to have more than John Reilly.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
No way. But we'll get there. Okay. So, spoiler. Not really, because I always say this. I don't have much to talk about this week, so we're going to talk about a few things, and then we're going to talk about John C. Reilly in the Actors Corner.
Yeah.
So, let's get to it.
Okay.
The one and only movie type thing that I watched this week was actually a documentary series. Was it a series? I don't even remember. Called Why Did You Kill Me on Netflix. Shocker. Murder show.
Murderino.
And so this was interesting. It was a girl was shot like in her car with her family, and her mom was like in the car in front of them, and a guy on the corner like shot at them, and she died. And like the mom kind of just got this big revenge thing in her, and the girl's cousin, this was back in the mid 2000s. So MySpace was the social media du jour at the time. And so this like 14-year-old got on MySpace and started finding who they thought the suspects were, because they saw them and they kind of knew who they were or whatever. And she started chatting with one of them and using her cousin's picture, by the way, and eventually was then kind of turning stuff over to the cops about what they found, because they knew the car that this person drive, and then they discovered on MySpace that the car belonged to this guy and all that stuff. It's very interesting. So they did eventually find the people, except for the one guy that she was chatting with, because at one point the mom was actually chatting with him, and she was just like getting so angry at the time, and she blurted out like, "Why did you kill me?" And the guy disappeared, and he like disappeared from town. Like this all happened in Riverside here and stuff. And it was like, so the guy disappeared. They've never found him. Oh no, that's not true. That's not true. It was a very tail end, like little text at the end that they found him a couple weeks after they finished the documentary in Mexico. He had moved there. He had gotten married. He had kids, and all this stuff. So anyway, so it was interesting. It was just a different approach of finding someone who murdered your family member, and it was interesting. And there's a lot of stuff to this family, who this girl, this woman who was killed, like the family members, the mom she would sell drugs, so had been in prison. All the brothers had been in prison. There's a lot of gang activity. There's a lot of gang activity out there. And so it was very interesting to learn about all of that kind of stuff. But still, interesting story.
Okay.
It was fine. I would if you're in the murder shows, I would definitely watch it because it was just a different approach of things. But that's that. It's on Netflix. Why Did You Kill Me?
I love you.
Aw, I love you.
Yeah. You watch.
That was a sarcastic I love you.
No. It's true. I love you. But do you ever look at your person?
Oh,
no, I'm kidding. But you do watch some awful stuff.
I do.
I don't personally have a fascination with those murder shows, so
No.
I don't get it. But
it's okay. I'm not alone.
Oh, I know. You're very well represented out there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Moving on. The next is a reality show that was on HBO Max, I believe, called Wahl Street, but spelled WAHL for Mark Wahlberg. This is his latest show. And first, we must pause and have a RIP moment for Alma Wahlberg. They lost their mom last week, and it was actually very, very upsetting. And I knew that was going to happen after being an avid watcher of Wahlburgers and really falling in love with Alma and their whole family, really. But Alma very much reminded me of a lot of my great aunts, and my mom's family is from Massachusetts, and so the accent and the attitude and a lot of that felt familiar to me in some way, I guess, maybe taking me back to my childhood with those women. And Alma's best friend was definitely someone that we knew, but my mom was listening. I wasn't probably laughing, but anyway, I loved Alma. What a woman. She had 9 kids. They literally lived in poverty at times. That's why they use government cheese at Wahlburgers, because it's what the boys loved and grew up on. And I always steal from Kevin Smith and say what big bucket of win, because she had that life of taking care of all those kids. She lost some children, and then for so many kids to become such a success, that's huge, and just a lovely woman, so it was very sad to see her go, and I hope everyone's doing okay in the Wahlberg family. We're sending them our love. And I know a lot of people don't like them, but I do.
Well, they're a pretty tough bunch, so they're going to get through it, but it is a hell of a thing. How long has their dad been gone?
I don't know.
Okay. Because Wahlburgers has been on for 7, 8.
It's not on anymore.
I know, but when did it start? Like 10 years ago? 8 years ago? 7 years ago?
7, 8 years ago.
And he wasn't around then, so he's been gone for a while.
There's not much talk about the dad. I think once Dhani talked about it, because when they split, like, some of the kids went to live with the dad and some stayed with Alma, and that sort of thing. But he's just not talked about as much.
I didn't know they had split.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm asking a question about something I really don't know anything about. I guess I just assumed that they were together and he passed away.
Yeah. No, it was
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's
because I don't want to talk about something I don't know either. So, so anyway, so now this is a new show called Wahl Street. This is all about Mark Wahlberg and all of his businesses outside of acting. And I think there was 7 that he had. Like, he's trying to dip his hands into a bunch of different pies. So he's got a clothing line called Municipal. He has Wahlburgers. He has the water, Aqua Active or something. He's got water. He's got the gyms. He's trying to get into that F24 or whatever it is. I don't know. These special gyms that like don't have mirrors, which hello. I love that. What else? So anyway, but this whole thing started like literally last like January. And what I think was so great about this was kind of showing how then the pandemic affected everything, and that was really fascinating, especially to watch someone like him handle it. And how do you handle it, and like Wahlburgers, all their franchisees, everyone closed, and so how did they as a corporation help? And then the clothing line, the main investor backed out because the investor lost their money, so then they couldn't help. So the clothing line was about to launch, and lost their investor, and the gyms, all the gyms had to close, and they were in the middle of getting a franchise agreement with this main gym company and stuff. So it was like, so there's just, it was very interesting. But also what I love, and I feel like Mark Wahlberg is a polarizing guy. I don't know why I feel like that, but I feel like you either hate him or you love him.
I think I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's weird, but I love him. I don't know if it's just my childhood hanging on to my Marky Mark and all the things, like when he started in Basketball Diaries, and Fear is one of my favorite movies I still watch all the time. And but watching these things, and especially watching Wahlburgers, I've grown to love him maybe more. Now, I do realize he put the stank on the world of Entourage. So I don't let that go by. But I would also like to point out that as far as I know, there aren't any like Me Too stories about him. So, there are Me Too stories about the people from Entourage, but not necessarily about Mark. One of the things I think is so funny too is he's a Gemini, but like me. But he can't be alone. Like the Entourage thing is real. Like he never travels alone. He has these friends that he grew up with that are always with him when he goes to set. When he's in, like, the funny thing about this show too is all these guys that he's investing with in these small companies, he also has them travel to Europe with him when he's going to film and stuff, so that they can talk about the business. And it's like, dude, you just don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Like he cannot handle being alone.
Yeah.
But he did well during the pandemic, being home with his family. But then he ended up bringing some more people into the pod because he needed to work out and stuff like that. So it kind of cracks me up. But he's also the youngest of 9 kids. So, you somewhat have some experience with that, but you had such a big age difference. He didn't have that age gap. So he was literally like, there was a bunch of them around all the time. So I think he's just used to having a bunch of people around him all the time. But it was also very interesting to watch someone like him who could literally sit back and show up on a day that he has to actually work, do some lines, whatever. And he's choosing to invest and kind of give back. And they do show this one company he wants to invest in, this green convenience store thing. And him talking about how he really chooses the people more than the business and stuff. But he's super busy. And here's the other thing I don't know. I don't know if they're not showing it to us or if it just doesn't exist. That he doesn't have an assistant. So he has someone at his house. They call her like the estate something or other assistant something, where she takes care of the house, and she does have him sign things and stuff. But as far as like getting him from appointment to appointment to appointment, there's no one on his back saying, you have to make this call now you have to leave and do this. No one, like when he went to Ellen, he drove himself. Like he might be operating without an assistant, which is huge because, again, the amount of stuff he has going on. But I also picture him wanting to be in control of that as well. I don't see him depending on someone else telling him what to do, because they could screw up and then he'll be pissed. Also, we never, in all his entourage and everything, never see a manager or an agent, and I'm sure he has them, and maybe he just doesn't, maybe obviously they're too busy to travel around or something. But that was also interesting because, again, you'd think as part of this entourage, that those people would be around, but maybe he also doesn't have a manager. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that was really fascinating. That it was kind of like, most of these guys can't handle that kind of life where it's literally phone call, meeting. And he has a lot of meetings just come to his house, which also kind of cracks me up because he loves being home when he can be home. Why do I feel like I'm like making up some kind of like, you must like him or something? I really admire all this stuff about him. Now, I could be wrong. And if any sort of story comes out that he's a jerk, okay. And I think he kind of is a jerk because I think he has a very kind of different tone about things. There are times where he definitely, I think people don't get him and his sense of humor. And I can tell you, I probably would have a hard time hanging out with him because I couldn't read him. But anyway, I'm just going to say I admire him for all the businesses and trying all this stuff. And especially when he could just sit around and just pull in money from acting and stuff, that he's trying all this stuff. That's really cool. And as busy as he keeps himself, I think that's also really cool.
Whoa.
That's it.
Okay. Take a deep breath.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was going to jump in a few times, but...
Go ahead.
Well, the moments are past, but one thing about him, you said love him or hate him, and I agree with you. But having said that, I've warmed up to him somewhat, because when I first knew of him or saw him or whatever,
really had a problem.
He struck me as such a jerk. I mean,
and he might be like, I don't know, because it seems like it's also like he's very tight in his circle.
Yeah.
And if you're outside of his circle, he might treat you like a jerk. I have no clue.
Well, being a jerk is probably only a big deal if you're hurting people. Now, so when I say he was being a jerk, it was his demeanor and his personality that I saw in interviews and that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
Which, at the end of the day, who are you hurting in an interview? Unless you talk derogatorily to the person interviewing you.
Right.
It's not that big a deal, because it's really just on him.
Right. Looking like a jerk. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he's not hurting anybody, okay, so be it. But always struck me as not my favorite person I'd want to be around.
Yeah.
And I do think he is a control freak. You can see that, like when he's talking to Polly in the kitchen, or whoever he's talking to, his
ideas are the best ideas.
It pretty much needs to be his way.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I understand that.
Both of us know what you're getting at, and yes, it's absolutely true. Yeah. But
it's a Gemini thing, I think.
I guess I'm not much into astrology, but it could be a Gemini thing, because every Gemini I've ever met is kinda. Anyway, without getting myself in too much trouble here, I just I don't really care for him, and I like I said, I'm warming up to him. He does do a lot. He has.
Well, there's the thing is, and this, like at the beginning of the pandemic, he donated a bunch of water. He donated like $1 million for PPE equipment and all that stuff. But then I also flipped back to that movie with Michelle Williams where they had to do the retapes for Kevin Spacey thing. And like he got $8 million and she got nothing. And when that came to the attention of all of us, he didn't come out and say anything. He didn't come out and defend her. Eventually we learned that he donated the $8 million to a woman's charity or something, which I admire, but he didn't come out and say anything. So I will put that out there that I wish he had said something. And again, do I think he's out there saying, oh, my co-star has to make the same amount of money as me? I don't think he's doing that.
No.
So, everyone has flaws. I'll put that out there.
Sure.
And maybe someday we'll learn that he does do that. I don't know.
Just what I know of him, I mean, that aside, while being a jerk, he seems like he has donated and given and gives time and money and stuff to some good causes. So he's obviously not the worst person in the world.
And he's also like incredibly loving to his family, which I admire. For someone like him, you would think, and I don't know how he grew up, and maybe this is Alma's influence, I don't know, but he's very affectionate with his kids, kissing his boys, calling his daughter my love, all that sort of stuff. When he's home, he's very much with his kids, and I really do love the way he shows them love, and kind of wants to include them as much as he can in everything he's doing. So I admire that as well for someone who, does have to travel. And so he does want to be home. And again, watching during the pandemic how much he got to be home with them, I think he said he really was enjoying his time home.
Yeah. Good.
So I do. Yeah. And, I think, again, you look at his early films versus maybe now where he's doing more comedies and stuff and lightening up a little bit, who knows. But it is what it is. And I think for me watching these shows, you might sit there and still be like, oh, he's kind of a jerk, but you kind of have to respect how hard he works. And again, he like he was just on Ellen a couple weeks ago, his schedule right now, he's getting up at 2:30 in the morning to work out before his day starts. There's a certain work ethic to him, and I would say the whole family, that they do know how to do that.
Yeah.
And that's something a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, you can't take anything away from his obvious sense of commitment and that sort of thing. You can just tell when he commits to something or when he decides to do something, he's 100%.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, his kids and his family and his daily schedule and that sort of thing. I'm sure he's very regimented and is very good at that sort of thing. I just wish he wasn't. He's got one of those deliveries.
Yes, he's very dry. Like, it's hard to read.
It's so dry. It's kind of crusty.
You
sometimes.
don't know. Was that a joke, or is he being totally serious? Yeah, I get. That's why I said I don't think I could hang out with him, because I would not be able to read that. It would freak me out. Yeah. So I get it, but anyway, that's enough. It was Wall Street. I think it was 6 episodes, like half-hour episodes. I found it really entertaining. He claims there's going to be another season. It was on HBO Max, I believe.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm done. I never thought I'd talk this much about Mark Wahlberg, so I can be
Say
done.
hi to your mother for me.
Say hi to your mother.
Okay, moving on. Yeah, because that went way longer than I thought it would have.
Mm-hmm.
Queen Sugar, the 5th season just ended. If you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know this is one of my favorite shows of all time. And it continues into the 5th season. This season started at the start of the pandemic. And they kind of went through this whole thing. One person got COVID. They also touched on the George Floyd and the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I already talked about that. It was a couple episodes ago. It's an episode that should be shown in every school, classroom, and even work. People should watch it. Anyway, season, beautiful season. Something that could have gone really to a dark place. They still managed to keep that hope that Queen Sugar has. It's kind of always in the face of possible real disaster that this family always comes together and has such a spirit about them. I just love it. And it still continues to be one of the most beautiful shows. I've said it every time I talk about it. I will say it again. You could hit pause in any moment of any of these episodes and print that to a canvas and hang it on your wall. I don't care what's going on. It will always be true. And this season, they usually always have women directors as much as possible. This season, they actually had 3 different directors, all women of color and all queer women. So that was really cool for the production company Array to put that together. And it was beautiful. So I just, if you have been still not sure about it or whatever, please go watch Queen Sugar from the start. All the episodes are on Netflix. And then season 6 comes back. I don't know when. Next year, I guess, on OWN. So very, very good show. I love it so much.
Good.
Yes. One thing we hadn't talked about, because we watched it a couple weeks ago and we never touched on it, was the additional episodes of Inside Pixar. We had talked about it a while ago when the first few episodes came out, and I just wanted to remind everyone that some new episodes came out a couple weeks ago, and we did watch. And these are not really episodes; they're little short things
15 minutes, something like that.
And they center on one person that works at Pixar, and whatever their role is, they get to tell us what they do every day.
Yeah, well, you get to follow them for a day.
Yeah, like it could be the chef, like the one was the pastry chef that works in the kitchens and feeds the people who work at Pixar. And
feed the people.
Another is the woman who is basically like in charge of the whole campus.
The facilities coordinator.
Yeah. So she has to get the rooms together for meetings for people, or she has to fix a light bulb when it's broken, or whatever her team has to do. That was really fascinating. And then you might have someone who's an actual animator or artist or storyboard person or whatever. It's such a great series, because man, again, if I were a kid and being able to watch that and see all the different things that are available to work when you might want to work in Pixar or animation or something like that, it gives you right there, all these different things, and you get to go, oh yeah, I wouldn't like that. Oh, I'd love to do that. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't care what the position is, what the person's job that they're following in any given episode. I just want to be them.
I know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I would. I think at Pixar, I would collect the trash. Not that there's anything wrong with people who collect the trash, because we all need those positions filled as well. I would fill that position to be there. 100%. I definitely would. I just Pixar's just
the atmosphere around there. And I know that they put on a good show.
Everyone complains about their job at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're seeing an episode in which, they don't want to, they're not going to portray, the crap of the day, right? You're kind of seeing, you may not be seeing full reality.
Sure.
Right? But even, how bad can it be for some of those people? I mean, even at their worst, it's probably better than the best day in a lot of people's jobs.
I'll tell you what I couldn't do when these animators talk about how what was it? One of them that was on one of these last episodes. He said he'd been working there for 25 years or something, and he has about a minute
and a half
of content that actually made it onto a screen or to any of these
20 years.
I couldn't deal with that, because I'm not cut out for that. Where and we saw even in that making of Frozen 2, someone will spend 3 years working on a 5-second segment, and that 5-second segment gets cut. Mm-hmm. And for me to have those 3 years of work just gone, I'm not cut out for that. My brain would not be able to handle that sort of thing. So I fully had and again, I can't draw or anything, so that would never be me as it is. But to me, that would be a really bad day, you know? And again, they did recognize that those are bad days for those people, and that does suck. But to get up the next day and they're given a new assignment, and they get to work on the next thing.
But that's just it. I don't think any of them, you want what you're doing to be in the movie and make the final cut. But at the end of the day, every day you're doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it makes it to the screen or not.
Yeah.
You're still doing what you love to do.
Sure.
And that's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah. And we saw some of the musicians, which is also cool. So it's a great little series. It goes really fast because, like we said, the episodes are so short. So it's inside Pixar on Disney Plus. It's really fascinating if you like the inner workings of that sort of thing.
Disney Plus. I mean, seriously, there's so much there.
I can't imagine anyone who doesn't, but
I mean, they're out there. You look at their subscribers. It's not everybody, but just do it.
It's so worth it.
It'll be. I mean, even if you go,
I'd pay 5 times more.
If you go full ticket, I think it's $7 a month or something like that. It's so worth it. I mean, good grief.
I'd pay $25 a month for it. I seriously would. It's so worthwhile.
Yeah, but you're Danny TV. I mean, we don't call you that for nothing.
Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is something I've already talked about on here, but you finally watched, and that is The Mandalorian.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So we watched both seasons of it so that John could catch up with the rest of the world.
Yep. I'm here.
Just a little behind as usual.
Oh yeah, story of my life.
So what did you think of this series?
So I didn't know what to expect going in.
Yeah.
Right. It was pretty flippin' fantastic. The story was great. The acting was great. My gosh, I cannot believe how much money they spend on these episodes.
Yeah.
It's literally a little movie every episode.
Yeah.
So well done. And actually before Wonder Woman 1984, I didn't really know who Pedro Pascal was.
Right. Yeah, I think it was Game of Thrones, which obviously neither one of us watched.
Right.
And there was another show that I didn't watch either that he was on. So, yeah, I didn't know much of him either.
And him and his character in that, I was like, it's so freaking slimy and stuff. Yeah. And then you told me he was the Mandalorian. I'm like, oh, good. Do I really want to do this? Yeah. But I got to tell you, in most of the series, you don't know it's him.
Right.
But
I don't picture him. I don't know why, but when he has his helmet on, I'm not picturing Pedro Pascal. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, now I can't help it. Right.
Okay.
But so much of the series is him acting with just his voice because he's in a helmet, and it's just so well done. I really like it. I'm not as enamored with Grogu or the child or whatever as everybody else is. Yes, he's really cute.
He's so cute.
I know. And it's just always getting into crap.
He's so cute.
He's like a 2-year-old.
Yes.
And
that's the point.
But he's 50 years old.
But in that species, that's equivalent to a 2-year-old.
I guess. But come on, man. Grow up, Grogu.
Oh no!
Quit getting into
no,
stuff.
Stop!
You're ruining everything.
No,
I'm kidding.
But
I'm
see,
totally
that's the question now: is what does happen in the third episode? Is it still going to revolve around Grogu for some reason, or does the Mandalorian go off and he has his own adventures now?
Well, so it's really interesting how every week goes, every episode. In that there's, it's kind of centered on the overall arc is him getting the child to where he needs to be to be with a Jedi.
Right.
But every episode is some weird, random little new adventure, right?
Yeah. Someone that needs Mandalorian's help.
I think that's totally going to continue. In that it's not going to be so much about the child, but
the child isn't with him anymore, so that's what we have to wonder.
Right, but you're probably during every season he's going to return, or there's going to be something about him every couple episodes or whatever, and he's still going to be a part of it.
See, I think that's where it could lose me, because especially in the second season, all of the Star Wars folklore coming back with Boba Fett and
spoilers.
Well, if you haven't seen it by now,
if you haven't seen it by now, I'm ahead of you, and you should be embarrassed.
Yeah, and Ahsoka coming back, and all the Jedi kind of folklore, and obviously with Luke and all of that. Like, if it were just a series of him going to a different planet every week and someone needing his help, I don't care about that. The only reason I kept watching was because of Grogu and what's going to happen with him. And so now that he's gone, technically, I don't know how we can continue to have him in the storyline without having Luke and everyone else and Jedi training and all that sort of stuff, which really doesn't have anything to do with the Mandalorian.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we'll see, but I'm definitely not going to stick around just to watch this guy do that crap. Now, he also, meeting up with Bo-Katan, and is he going to go back to Mandalore with her? We didn't see what ended up really happening with her and the sword, and is she going to, try and take over the planet again? So maybe it goes that way, and we end up just really kind of on Mandalore and trying to figure that out. I don't know, but there's definite stuff there. For me, it really is about Grogu, and so
you're gonna stick around.
Don't know that.
You are.
I give up on shows. I don't stick around if I don't want to. So you will watch the third season. You're in.
I'm in 100%.
Okay. Cool.
And I don't, sacrilege, but I don't care if it has a lot of Grogu in it or not. Just the visual effects and the the adventures and, whatever he gets into, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to draw you in. Okay. I think. So, that's my take on it. Yeah.
Okay.
As long as Jon Favreau is involved, I think it's going to be worth watching. He's obviously,
for sure.
That guy is so underappreciated, especially for what he brings to this table.
Yeah.
He's figured this out, man.
It was genius. This whole show's idea, genius.
Yeah. Hard to believe it's that guy in the kitchen, chopping stuff up with Roy Choi, and
we love that show.
The genius behind this Mandalorian.
He's the genius. He saved everything. Marvel.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Speaking of Marvel shows, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier ended yesterday. The finale came out yesterday. I can't talk about this a lot because John is also behind on this. We have gotten 2 episodes in for him.
Are you people sensing a pattern?
Yeah, it sucks. But I get to watch everything twice, so that's kind of cool. So what I will say about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is bravo. It's freaking fantastic. What Marvel is doing with these shows, WandaVision and now this one, what I love is the villains are not the villains that you see on the screen. In WandaVision, the villain was grief, and Wanda having to deal with her grief and everything that came with that. And in this show, the villains are race and trauma, and Bucky and Sam having to deal with those things. There's a whole thing with Flag Smashers being the villains and all that sort of stuff, and honestly, who gives a crap, because the rest of the stuff is so much better. And John Walker's a villain as well, just because you have to hate him, and he is a villain. He's not a hero whatsoever. But I can't say a lot because John still needs to watch four episodes, and a lot happens in those 4 episodes. So there's 6 episodes of this Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's absolutely fantastic. They just announced yesterday there's a 4th Captain America coming out, which obviously we know, everyone knows, even if you haven't watched, is obviously going to be Sam as Captain America. And that's very exciting. Super excited for that. They've also opened up a whole bunch of other stuff. So Julia Louis-Dreyfus is in this. It shows up in this show. She is actually, we were supposed to be introduced to her in Black Widow first. And since Black Widow is a year late, we got her in this first. So that's a little confusing. But I guess according to people, she's Madam Hydra, and she's going to put together this kind of group of villains together type thing. That's exciting. So I don't know which movie those guys are going to show up in. We're also finishing off, I guess, the whole Young Avengers crew by this show. So there's a lot of stuff that is in this series that is going to open up into a bunch more movies that are coming out. And it's just super exciting.
So let me get this straight.
No.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus is going to be the head of a villain syndicate?
From what we determined, yeah.
Oh,
that's
man.
who she's playing. But she's really good. Wait until you see her in this. So.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure she's very capable, right? But still,
So
do I want my Julia Louis to be
yes,
a bad
you
person?
do.
Yeah?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. I trust your judgment.
So anyway, I just, first we'll talk about it way more when John has watched all of these. Hopefully will be by the next podcast. But the race issue in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is truly the biggest issue there is. And it's amazing how they have paralleled, certain people in certain roles that exist in today's world and with today's racism.
Yeah, sadly, it's art imitating life, and they haven't even had to embellish anything. It's just, I mean, the 2 episodes I've seen, right? It's normal daily racist stuff.
Yes, but it also points out the whole history of race, like with Isaiah Bradley and his whole strife. So it gets so deep. And we will definitely talk more about all of that. But for sure, watching Bucky go through dealing with all of his trauma and watching Sam deal with the racism in this country. And then, anyway, so it's a great show. Go watch it. And hopefully in a couple weeks, we will talk way more about it. And it's so good. Every episode is a movie. It's a Marvel movie. The action sequences on this show, every episode, blew me away. And I know everyone's kind of hating on Wyatt Russell, and it's so funny how many people didn't know who Wyatt Russell was before this, which I find really strange. Because he's got his own show on AMC, so I just thought people knew who he was already. And then the amount of TikToks that I find where people are finding out who his parents are, I'm like, oh my god. It's super weird.
Jesus.
But as much as we hate him, I think that is because of his performance. He went there and he really played it knowing that this is what we have to do. We have to hate you. Mm-hmm. And he went for it, and he's doing a fantastic job. He's really good at being the biggest douche and horrible real anti-hero that he could be. And so I'm really happy for him that he got this role and that people now know who he is, even if they're all hating him, because he has a whole nother role that he becomes by the end of the season. So we will see him again in another movie. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's that. So now I just want to touch on, there's a lot of shows that I am in the middle of watching. So, and I normally don't like to talk about them until I've finished the season. Mm-hmm. But there are 2 that are new. They're CW shows that I know people are probably like, oh, that's ridiculous. But I do watch a lot of CW. But these 2 shows just started the last couple of weeks. There's only been 2 episodes of each, and I really like them. So I wanted to say something about them so people might start watching them. Okay. The first is called Cruel Summer. It kind of reminds me of Pretty Little Liars. It's set in the 90s, and it's an interesting way they tell the story. Each episode is the same day in 93, 94, 95. And so because something really horrible happens between these 2 years, that they show us, here's what the day looked like in 93 and everyone's happy, and then here's what the day looked in the middle in 95 and how everyone's lives has changed, and then a dramatic change because there was this mystery, and in 95 now how gloomy and horrible and everyone's life is now because this girl got kidnapped. And so it's a very weird mystery. It's not as big a mystery as I thought it was going to be when the show started, and I was like, oh my God, what happened? And then they revealed it and I was like, that's what we're talking about. But so far, I'm enjoying the way they're telling the story, and I'm excited to find out if this mystery actually happened or not. So it's interesting. So anyway, I just thought I would point that one out. If you guys liked Pretty Little Liars, maybe I might stick a little, not really Gossip Girl, it's not really all the way there, but if you like that, you'd probably like this show. And then the second one I wanted to talk about was Kung Fu, especially right now when the Asian American Pacific Islander, group in this country is having a really hard time. I love that there's a ton of like Asian shows and Asian representation and everything coming out right now. But this show, beside all that, I never saw the original Kung Fu show. So I have no clue if the lore in this, like the whole story, like the story about this is there's these weapons that each family protects a certain weapon, and the one villain we've met in this show so far, she's after all of the weapons. And so our heroine, she's trying to find this woman and stop her from getting all these weapons. And she's learning about this whole story and this whole folklore as she goes along. She studied in China. She was at like this temple, and she learned Kung Fu and all that stuff, for, martial arts and protection. So she's a badass, number one. So this story shows up with her coming home to her family. She hadn't been there in 3 years, and dealing with that kind of thing, as well as she's also trying to like save the planet or something with finding this villain. Anyway, I'm really enjoying the story. I love this girl who plays the lead. I should have looked up her name. I have no clue who it is. She's really good. I kind of have weird feelings about other people that are around her, like, oh, I think he's bad. It's kind of brings back that whole feeling. It's a little bit like Arrow, honestly, which I miss so much. But it feels a little bit like that, where she's got this talent, and yet she's got to, find a team around her to help her, period.
Right.
So anyway, I just wanted to point it out. I can't tell you if it's at all anything like the Carradine show, but I really like this. And the villain's a chick, the hero's a chick. It's awesome. And they totally kick ass too. The action in this show is really well done too.
Good.
So
yay.
Wanted to point those out. And now we will get to the Actors Corner.
All right.
And talk about John C. Reilly.
Okay.
All right. So you go first. Movies you love.
I got down to 2.
Okay.
Step Brothers with Will Ferrell.
That is on mine as well, of course.
Yeah,
that is.
It's like the epitome of John C. Reilly.
It's just the best movie ever. I mean, I don't know if we go a day without quoting
probably
that
not.
movie. Yeah.
And if you're, whoever came up with that premise, I mean, when you picture a man-child, it's John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell.
I mean, yeah,
and that combination is just magic.
Oh, it is just the best movie ever.
Yeah. And the other one is Wreck-It Ralph.
Okay. Yeah. Do you like Wreck-It Ralph better than Ralph Wrecks the Internet?
I think I like them equally.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I have Ralph Wrecks the Internet under my secretly love. I like that one way better than the first one. Like way better.
Yeah.
I thought that premise was just so genius and perfect, and
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's under my like.
Okay.
I think the first one is under love because it was the first one and it was different.
Yeah.
And it was very cool.
Sure. Okay. So I have 3, one being Step Brothers.
Mhm.
This was also actually really hard for me because he happens to be in some of my favorite movies of all. And so for me to try and put them in different categories was just really hard. So really, I just love everything. But I had Step Brothers, The River Wild. I think I've talked about it here when we talked Kevin Bacon and when we talked Meryl Streep.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies. It's just such a great movie. And The Perfect Storm, which again, one of my favorites. I will watch that movie anytime I can. It's just a good one.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, movies you like?
Talladega Nights.
Okay.
Him and Will Ferrell again.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I've probably only seen it all the way through, maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, I've come in and watched segments here and there, but oh.
Yeah. Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Okay. Wrecks the Internet.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes. It would have been better if it was Breaks, but it wasn't because it's Wreck.
A River Wild.
Okay.
And then his episode of Drunk History where he was Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was... Drunk History is going to be on here a lot for me now, I think, because some of my favorite, it's just, it's such a good show.
It's done now.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
no more?
Yeah, they're not doing it anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Under my I have Chicago. And honestly, so much of my of that movie is him because I was not a Mr. Cellophane fan before this, even though it was Joel Grey and I knew that, but his rendition and again, it probably was a lot of the direction and all of that, but I loved his rendition of Mr. Cellophane, and it totally changed the movie a little bit for me too. So I really put it there because of him and his performance of that. And then I have Boogie Nights. Boogie Nights is a little controversial for me now, again, the whole porn industry and all that, but I did love the movie back then, and him, the best friend, Dirk Diggly's best friend, was just his character was fun, and he was the most he was just I just liked his character a lot in that, so I put it on here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Movies you hate?
Holmes and Watson.
You never saw it, did you?
I started to.
I watched the whole thing, and I found it enjoyable.
You did?
Yes. You have to watch it with that sort of it's the two of them, and let's just see what the hell they do with it. And it's stupid and horrible and all of that, but there are some funny moments.
Yeah.
So.
After 15 minutes, the funny moments weren't worth it to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, sorry.
That's all you had?
That's all I have.
So, I have a few. I have the Walk Hard, that Dewey Cox story. I didn't make it through that. Dark Water. I don't remember him in it, but I didn't like the movie, so I just put it on here. And Carnage, because that was the movie version of the play God of Carnage, which we loved. And I don't know why, again, they didn't use... I don't think James Gandolfini was dead by then, so they didn't use the play
I think
people.
I think he was.
Was he?
Yeah. But
it was a good enough movie, and they were good enough in it, but I am biased towards the original cast, and you can't beat that, and so that's why I put it on there. It has nothing to do with him. He was fine, and everyone in it was fine. It just, they should have done the original.
If you saw the stage show, there's just no outdoing that.
Right, because it was James Gandolfini and Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
And I forget which one John C. Reilly was playing, but you just can't beat it. Yeah. We were very lucky to see that cast.
Where did we see that?
We saw that here in LA. The original New York cast came here, and they performed it here.
Hope Davis and Marcia Gay Harden. I mean, that was
perfection.
Oh, that was probably the best 2 hours in a theater, and right up there.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got to see that.
I am too.
Okay, Secretly Love.
Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't. I'll never admit it.
I gotta keep track of these Secretly Loves so that when he yells at me for watching stuff, I can go, "But you secretly love this,"
and that's happened. It has happened.
I just noticed we have a hidden Mickey on that wreath right there.
Is it hidden?
It is.
It really?
Because I never saw it before, and we've had that
doesn't
for
mean
10
it's
years.
Hidden. You just may have never noticed it. Oh, bless you.
Was that the only thing you had on Secretly Love?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had Ralph Wrecks the Internet, and then I have The Anniversary Party. I believe I've talked about the anniversary party on here. It is probably one of my top 10 movies of all time. Directed by, I'm going to forget everyone's name, Jennifer Jason Leigh and Alan Cumming. And they basically had their friends over and said, here are the characters you're playing. And we're just going to put up some digital cameras and we're going to film you guys. And it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. I love it so much. And he, of course, is great in it, just like everyone else. That's Jennifer Beals and Gwyneth Paltrow and Kevin Kline and Phoebe Cates. And it's that group of friends that they're just awesome. And I love the movie. And so I had to put it on here.
Okay.
Embarrassed you haven't seen?
Nothing.
Okay. I didn't have anything either. And adding to your watch list?
Hoffa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have never seen it. And it's got a lot of other people in it, that I like.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
Saw he was in it and did a little research, and yeah, he's in it enough. So
yeah.
I've never seen it, and I've always wanted to.
Okay. I added Stan and Ollie because I really wanted to see it when it came out. It looked like his rendition was really great, and so I thought I would.
Who plays Stan in that?
I don't know. There were two movies that came out at the same time, so I don't remember which one he's paired with.
Okay.
But I also I have some honorable mentions, of course.
Of course you do.
One of the first times I saw him was in Dolores Claiborne, or if you're from there, it's Dolores Claiborne. That's how.
Yeah.
They all did the accents very well, and John C. Reilly did the accent very, very well. That's where my family's from, and so it was Claiborne because. That's how I always heard my last name pronounced. Instead of Sanborn, my grandparents would always say Sanbin, and I was like, "What are you saying?" So,
how do you spell it? Sanbin?
Yeah,
Sanbin?
I don't know. So, but I love that movie, and he did a great job with the accent in that. And then Never Been Kissed, he's very funny in that. Him and Molly Shannon always crack me up. Good Girl. I have a lot of weird things about that movie, but he was good in that. The Aviator, Prairie Home Companion, I've talked about before how much I love that movie. It's a little tainted now, but I do love him and Woody Harrelson together in that movie. It was funny. I did have Talladega Nights. Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, he was funny in that. He was good.
Sure.
The Lobster, weird movie, but he was good in that. I had Holmes and Watson. And then his latest show that was on HBO, Moonbase 8. It's him and Fred Armisen. It's a very weird, strange show. But I kept watching it because of how weird and strange it was. It looks like there's another season possibly coming out. I don't know. But it was a strange addition there. But I wouldn't tell someone not to watch it. I just you have to have a certain, I think, sense of humor to keep watching it. So
if you've watched a lot of John C. Reilly, I think you understand.
And Fred Armisen, you got to put those two together, and then you'll figure it out.
You should know what you're getting.
Yeah, it's about these guys who are testing how to live on the moon, like in Arizona or something, like in a desert somewhere, and they're just not the smartest people or anything. Anyway, whatever is HBO. I mean,
okay. Sure.
So that's it.
Okay.
We will be back in a couple of weeks. There's actually quite a bunch coming out in the next couple of weeks, so hopefully I'll have much more interesting things to speak about.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So that's it.
All right.
We will see you guys in the next couple of weeks. Until then, I'll be watching my stories.
Well, thank you for telling me your stories.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
The look on your face is like so serious.
It was genuine.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, you were falling asleep through so much of it.
Well, yeah, but they kept me awake. All right, everybody.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.